Village peeps. So I'm having a music nerd moment, and I figured I'd share it. And I mean, I separated this live stream from the other one, and I kind of don't even care about copyright shit right now, just because I'm having too much fun, and I wanted to share the moment. So I was working on the mix. I was trying to work on the mix, right? And it ended up mixing more than I was trying to mix. I'm actually working on the master, right, of Breaking Out the House. And so the the band guy on YouTube, his method of suggestion is to not only have multiple tracks, so you have your original versus the mix that you're working on, so you can hear the difference, and then also having reference tracks of other like official radio edited songs and mixes, so it could be compatible with stuff that's on the radio. And so I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do this with a computer that ain't got no Wi-Fi. I was trying to link my phone to the speaker and then my computer to the speaker and play songs on the phone, and it just wasn't working that way. But I was like, I do have some music on my hard drive. Now, here's the thing. There was, there was a moment in time when LimeWire was a moment, and I feel like some of these tracks might be LimeWire tracks. I'm not sure. Don't come for me. That program doesn't exist anymore. But I had songs on there, and I was like, okay, well, let me get a few songs from my hard drive and compare it to that. So I was going back and forth between I Got a Feeling by Black Eyed Peas, because it's a pop song, it's an upbeat record, and I feel like, okay, it's kind of got the vibe that Breaking Out the House has. And then I put Prince on there, and I was like, well, Prince is like the standard. So I mean, if there's anybody to try to mix close to, I know the song ain't Prince level musicality wise. I know it's not that. But Prince is he- you know what I mean. You get what I'm trying to say. So I'm like, all right, let me use the Prince record at the very least. Is Love to the Nines, which is a favorite, even though it's not like his biggest song, but it's a personal favorite. And it is an upbeat record. Like it goes through ebbs and flows of not tempo, but just like, it's moments where it's like real chill and then it builds up and then there's like a lot going on musically. Like there's the beat and then the instruments and all these things. And I mean, Prince is fucking ridiculous musically. And so I'm playing the record. I'm playing it to like level it out quality wise in terms of like, okay, does my song sound like something that could be on the radio? Like, if it just so happens to be on like an R&B station and then the Prince song comes on and then, my song just happens to come on right after. Because, that's what happens on R&B radio, like, the oldies and, oldies and new R&B, they'll mix some random stuff in there, all the time. So like, why not me? Um, so I'm mixing the record. I'm listening back and forth. And really the main thing that I needed to work on was the volume, because my record was very low compared to other tracks. And I had already seen other videos about that where some people will compare to other records that are like the top 40 records or whatever. And a lot of the stuff that's on radio is technically loud compared to the sound system software where they say like, oh, the song is peaking. Well, most of the songs on the fucking radio be peaking, and chances are at some point the streaming standard might change at some point any fucking way, so whatever. So I'm like, all right, I gotta turn the volume up, right? So I'm playing it at the same time. That's why I wasn't live streaming that part while I was playing, because I was like, the copyrights, like, Prince never played about that. So I'm like, respectfully, I'm not gonna, and then plus I'm like, I'm trying to monetize my stuff, right? So I'm going back and forth, playing the Prince record, playing Breaking Out the House, going back and forth and leveling the volume. I haven't even, when I was trying to level the EQs and all that stuff, it was just making it really like muffled sounding. And I was like, I don't know, like honestly, I do really like my mix already. I'm sure there's little stuff that I can fix, but I think if I edit the volume first and then tweak the effects, then maybe, I don't know, I'll figure that part out. That's not what I'm getting to, even though that's what I'm supposed to be doing, is mastering the record. But I was listening to the Prince record while I was listening to my record, trying to compare for the sake of trying to edit the master, and I was like, actually, this there was moments where it was blending kind of well, and I was like, I don't know what key this record is in, and I don't know the BPM, but the BPM has to be close because there was moments where the intro was mixing in really well with the intro to Love to the Nines, and so I'm like, the record Breaking Out the House BPM is 100. And so I'm like, this Prince record got to be close to that because there's moments where it'll go in pocket and then a little bit out of pocket. And so I looked it up and the BPM is 105. And so, or 105 or 104, one of those. It's a few notches off of the tempo that I have for my record. And so Logic Pro, being as dope as it is, has this thing where you can like automatically edit the BPM to whatever track you're working on. So I don't know how, I mean, it pretty much sounds the same as how I leveled it up before, but just hear what I'm talking about. Not Angie in the background. It's a little off here, but it's here. Can't tell me what to do. Fuck about it, something you ain't gotta do. Said bitch, it's true. And then of course it gets like pretty loud because he has like 20 different instruments coming in at that part. And then that's also another thing too I'm trying to keep in mind is like there's certain parts of the song in my record where I know it's gonna be lower than parts where more instruments come in. Or not instruments, but more tracks because technically I did this song on the MIDI controller, so there's not technical instruments, but you know what I'm saying. Where there's more tracks come in, the beat comes in, so it's going to be louder. Then I'm doing dubbed vocals and harmonies and whatnot. So there's different sections of the song where the song gets louder. And I tried to blend it as well as I could, as much as I could. And I think I did a pretty good job with that. But then also listening to these other songs, I'm like, not only are these songs loud as fuck, but there's even with the intro part where it's more like reserved, it still gets louder because then all the other instruments come in when listening to the Black Eyed Peas and the Prince record. So I'm like, all right, well, I just need to turn my shit all the way up, basically. Turn it up. But I really enjoyed that part. I accidentally found out that these mixed really well. And what's interesting about this, right, is that I do a run on here. Speaking of runs, um, I say that because of whatever. Um, so there's a run that I do on here that Prince also does on this song, which makes sense because I listened to this song a lot growing up, and it's one of my favorite Prince songs. And I mean, granted, like I feel like anybody, like if you really think about it, everybody pulls from something, right? Everybody's inspired by somebody, and I think I've said this before, but the best way it was explained, I think, is how J. Cole said it, I think in an interview somewhere, probably with Angie Martinez, where he said in the beginning he was of his like rap career, he was rapping like Eminem, like, and most times when artists are like starting out, you pull from your inspirations because you haven't really quite honed your own style yet, right? And then plus, even when you do, there's always going to be some element within you that's going to be reminiscent of who inspired you and who helped cultivate your when you figured out your own style, and you probably pull from so many different things. And it makes me think of when Mariah Carey talked about Aretha Franklin and was saying, like, anybody who does runs and ad libs, all of the ad libs come from Aretha. Like any basic R&B run that anybody does, even like the runs that are done in gospel music, like most of that pulls from Aretha, because Aretha came up in the church and then did pop R&B music. So even if you do R&B, if you do pop, if you do, and then you got a little, like at some point that came from Aretha, and it's funny because I hadn't started listening to Aretha until recently, and I realized a lot of the runs that she would just do like offhand would be like staple runs for me. And or say like I'll just be humming along to a song that I'm listening to for the first time. And I'll end up doing the same run that she was doing, not knowing that she was going to do that run because it's my first time listening to the song and I'm just singing along or humming along, like thinking that I'm freestyling. And then it'll be in the same like realm of what she was doing. And a lot of that is fun for me. But a lot of that is interesting because most of my musical foundation is Mariah, period. Like, and it's funny that she says that, which makes a lot of sense because I grew up listening to a lot of Mariah Carey and hearing her talk about Aretha, saying like everything pretty much stems from Aretha. Then I go to listen to Aretha, and I'm like, yeah, that checks out because she's the architect of this shit. And Prince too, like, and plus like I grew up listening to a lot of old school music. I mean, it's the best music to listen to. Like everything from the 70s and the 80s and R&B, soul music, like is the best. So it was funny because as I was listening to this, not only was it like a dope moment figuring out like a pocket where this could blend and mix really well. I'm like, if I was a DJ and I had like the whole mixing setup, like I could figure out how to mix these records and it'd be really dope. But and then in listening to the rest of the record, I realized there's a run on the Prince song "Love to the Nines" that I do on breaking out the house, which is interesting. But I feel like that's not like a taboo thing. I feel like all artists are like that. And there's people who, you pull from the music that you listen to, your inspirations. And then, like, sometimes you can create something that's new. But a lot of it is like nothing's new under the sun. Like, there's always going to be a melody or a variation. Like, it's but so many fucking notes in the musical scale. Like at some point there's going to be overlap and there's going to be parts times where a melody sounds very similar to something else or it's close to a thing or whatever you know and then there's always that conversation of like you know close but not quite like it, but like there's always that thing, but then at the same time there's always inspiration too. um And, if there's anything that I would want to be inspiration for, like where I pull from, it would be the greats, you know? And it's an interesting space to be in, especially writing a song like this called Breaking Out the House and specifically saying, like, make sure they stay out your brain. And then I mentioned in my live stream before, like, when you're creative and then you have other people who might have gifts elsewhere, trying to influence your sound or whatever, or what you do or your creativity, even that like can be a situation where it's like, because I'm like listening to the extended version that I did, and I was like, and the thing was, I had that idea for the song a while ago to like have some type of like a call and response kind of moment because it's like an upbeat song and it's fun and and I was just like it was an idea that I kind of like forgot about, and I was like, okay, you know what, let me just see about this. But then I realized, like in listening to Rage the other day, I'm like, this is giving a little Illuminati sprinkles on here. And but at the same time it's like, what's really new under the sun? Fucking nothing. I mean, and I guess to quote, I don't know who originally said this, but I know we've heard this phrase many a time. And, and we've seen people take and capitalize off of this phrase because it's something that resonates with any and everybody. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? So, I mean, it's just a matter of you going to take the lemon or not at this point, and sometimes the lemon could be um, a beef patty. Lemon pepper. I don't know. Lemon pepper steppers. I don't know. Um, I don't know. It depends on, what kind of lemons. Um, but I mean, naturally, and not only that too, but within the call and response, I was listening to something in the political space about what's going on with all these executive orders and, just the rollback on DEI and inclusion and just this whole movement that's rolling back everything that brought power and rights and equality and fairness and safeguards to people within the LGBTQ community. And that's naturally something that I care about. And and I know that there's been protests that's been going on around the world, and and people in different spaces, whether it's folks in the LGBTQ community, women, um, Mexicans, people who are immigrants. There's protests going on around the whole country right now, which is beautiful. People using their voice and speaking up. And so in that moment I wanted something that felt like a chant, like a protest. And it's interesting to see people misconstrue that or try to like manipulate that, which is kind of corny. It's very corny, actually. It's very can of corns. Um, but I mean, hey, it is what it is, right? Either way, I was having a good time mixing this record, and you know, at this point, who knows what's real or fake these days? And I feel like everything is fake. The things that we look up to, the things we admire, the things we want to do, you know, like what's really original at this point, you know? What's an original idea? Especially with artists in the industry. I mean, every like in with movies, everything's a fucking remake now. Everybody's remaking movies that's already been out. Like how many Batman movies do we need? No shade. I actually, and mind you, I like the last Batman. I like the Batman with Robert Pattinson. I like the Batman with Christian Bale. There was barely like 10 years since those movies came out. But or like within 20, but you get what I'm saying. Like I don't know. I just feel like we're in a day and age where like as time goes on, there's but so many like original ideas that's gonna be a thing. There's probably gonna be some variation of a thing that had already existed in one way, like sampling. When we see sampling in music, even though speaking of Prince, something that he, talked against a lot. And I mean, I'm here for sampling. I think sampling when done right is really dope in hip hop um and even in R&B, But I feel like today, in today's day and age, the sampling is getting a little lazy. Whereas like it's not even really sampling, it's them just recreating the original song. And and we see that, like, people willfully do that, like, and who knows, maybe there's spiritual influence on that too, because these record labels be telling you, oh yeah, you should write the song like this, and you should get a team of writers, and produce the beat like this, because this is the song that's going to be a hit and sell records. Speaking too much facts. you know because, like, just keep in mind, like, the things that y'all see me go through, I'm not the only one dealing with this. Like, people in the industry might kiki and ha ha because, like, they're in the industry, and they just get to pull off other people's energy. But it's like, people probably spiritually pimping y'all too. Y'all just get a little bit more money, barely, if you even get that, because you still got to recoup that advance. So, you know, I mean, you could hee hee ha ha about my songs, but the question is, why your songs sound like the original? Just make a new song. I don't know. But what do I know? I'm not in the industry. I'm not in the industry. So I I don't know, but I just know what I hear, and I know this sound like something else. We could say that about so many different creatives. And then at the same time, you could also say, like, there's people who do the sampling thing, and it is dope. Like, for example, like Lucky Day, that record, that's like a sample of the Music Soul Child Half Crazy record. I forget what his song is called, but that's dope. I mean, it's clearly a remake sample, but Lucky Day is a really talented artist, and he has a dope vibe. And then you have something where some of these other artists just recreate what's already done. Yeah. Anyway, I say all this to say, I had a good time mixing this record, and I'm gonna play it back just because I really was feeling it. So yeah, it's a little off in the beginning, but right here is anyway. I enjoyed that. Um, if I had, like, the mixing equipment to be a DJ, but that's not a part of the agenda for me right now. But yeah, here's my musical listening buddy over here. Living her best little furry life. Um, yeah, but I just wanted to share that. But anyway, so I hope you all enjoyed that musical moment. Just because you gotta have fun in the midst of the BS of it all. And yeah, I'm still figuring out this whole, like, mixing mastering thing. But and it's a Friday night, and this is my turn up. So yeah. With that said, much love to you all. Um, well, I mean, I guess I could keep the live stream going. Really, I'm just working on the record. But I think right now, and then plus, I'm just don't mind me. I'm just literally just laying here. It's not, but like, I mean, I just sitting up on the desk like this, trying to be comfortable and creative. But basically, this got to be loud as fuck, which is cool. That's fine. Um, and man, oh my gosh, it's such a good song. Love to the nines. I was like, I don't know why I got this up here with the Prince song as if it was going. Not that I was ever trying to like compete ever. No, that wasn't a thing. But I do. It does feel good to know that there's a moment where it kind of blends really well. And mind you, and I think I don't know if it's on the same key, but it's a similar key, and I'm here for it. And like I said, the BPM is only a little bit off. So the fact that the BPM was similar and it was in a decent key, and then when the beat comes in, I'm like, oh, this sounds like it could be a mix. DJ, put me on. But I mean, this would be an interesting event. But at the same time, I've been seeing like some really cool mixes online, like on TikTok with DJs. They'll put there's I forget what song it was, but it was like a Natasha Bedingfield song with something crazy. And it worked. And it worked. And then I saw somebody mix what was it? Was it Fallout Boy with Anita Baker? And that shit was slapping. I'm like, never would I thought, but to be in a generation where it makes like you hear it and it makes sense, and it's like, oh, we grew up with Anita Baker, but and we as we were kids, like as Fallout Boy was out. I mean, they're still out, right? They still make music, I think. I don't know, I haven't really been following them like that. But growing up as a millennial, when they were like, fresh on the scene, was a time. And to see that mix, I was like, yo, that's crazy. But I love that. I love to see the experimentation in music in that way, where it's like creative and new and it's different. And you see a spin on music that is original. It's different. It's not something that you would expect or see all the time. So I appreciate stuff like that. You know. I know this might not be the most entertaining conversation that, but this is for the people who are here for the music. I know certain people are really here for like, oh, what are you going to say about? I'm like, it don't matter because you already know what I'm going to say. You already, so the fuck is the point? The fuck is the point? Dame already said it, so the fuck I need to say it for. But you know what I will say? I'm mastering breaking out the house though. Mastering breaking out the house myself. And I mean, honestly, I don't know what else I would really need to do. Because, like I said before, like I really like the mix that I did. I think I spent so much time and work on that mix. I feel like before I had even started mastering, like there were several times where I was going to start mastering and then I could hear something that I know needed to be fixed in the mix. So I'll go back to the mix and fix it and then bring it back. And then so now I'm like, okay, I mean, what else is there to do? And mind you, and not only that, but I feel like the vocal quality is pretty good too. I mean, it's not amazing because not amazing in comparison to like a Prince song because he had his own studio and he was probably using analog. And there's probably a particular way of recording those instruments and like I'm really intrigued about that actually. Like how did they mix and master like analog back in the day. Like I know it's a thing, but when I think about people recording live instruments and then everybody playing together, like did you have mics separate? Like how do you separate the different instruments? And like, you know, I think back to like looking at footage of when Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones were making Thriller, and then some footage of like Stevie Wonder in the studio. And, you know, they perform with bands. And there's people like, all right, you got the bassist, you got the drummer, you got the this, you got the piano player, and people are playing these instruments on analog. So like they're in an old school studio, you know, it's not like with the technology stuff that we have today, which I'm really grateful because it makes it more accessible for people to create. But I like how do you mix and master that like records like that back in the day? That's what I'd be wanting to know. Um and but I'm to do it in a digital age where you could just like tweak it on a computer. Like what was that process? What was that? Like back in the day before there was like computers and stuff like that. I mean, there was clearly digital equipment to even record the sounds, but you know, but I know they would like record it and put it on vinyl. But I'm like, you gotta mix it, right? How do I mix the records? Like I don't know. If somebody could, you know, if there's like footage of that, like I don't know, put that in my algorithm, abracadabra, that into my algorithm. But yeah, I'm curious about that. But the process today, it's I'm grateful that things are a lot more accessible and easier to do. Um, that was a tangent, but how did I get to that point? I was talking about the Prince record. Yeah, Prince. Yeah, because I'm like these they got instruments. They be playing instruments and I'm sure they be performing like live together, you know. And especially with people's stories of like Prince inviting people to like Paisley Park and to perform. Man, I would have loved to been there. Um but you know, it is what it is. And I wonder, you know, I be wondering if like if only I had the chance to meet people like Prince and Michael Jackson, you know. And I'm like, "Oh, to think that what if they knew of my existence on Earth?" Um, I wonder. But I mean, like, but then at the same time, like, I feel like the excitement of like meeting your idols, I'm kind of like over that, just because I've had my experience of being disappointed by people that I like revered and looked up to, and so it gets to a point where it's like, eh, but I can still appreciate the art though. Like I always give credit where credit is due and say like, you know, this person is like the architect, the blueprint, you know. But at the same time, I understand that the people that I look up to creatively are people. They're humans and they happen to be very successful at what they do and we're skilled at what they do. And and you know, and that same thing of like just wanting to be with the greats. Like, if there's anybody to try to like model a career after or a sound or whatever, it's that. So like even when I have my moments, my choreography moments, um, you know, I had started learning the choreo to Remember the Time by Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson is the best. If there's anybody like I know like I'm very much an amateur and I'm not like a trained dancer, even though I've taken like dancing classes through the years. And like once I pick up choreography, like I got it, like I can learn it pretty much. And like once I have it, like I'm pretty like decent. But I'm like, if there's anybody to study from, it's got to be the best, you know. So even though sometimes it could be intimidating, like even me, like with this mix right now, I'm like. why the fuck would I pick a Prince record? But I'm like, why would I not? Because if there's anybody that I would want to like try to model a mix or a master of my song after, it would be the best. And Prince is the fucking best, you know, when it comes to the music that I listen to, or the like, I don't really know what's going on with music these days. Like all them people that was nominated for Grammys, like I'm happy for the people who won and the people who are really talented and skilled, but I haven't listened to them because a lot of the, Shilluminati references, I don't really care for that. I just want the music to be good and for it to just be good music, without all the fucking Nancy Drew clues and, shit going on. And to get that, you have to go back in time. And not even just that, but just like naturally, like the best quality of music. Like I said, it's like artists from the 70s and, I mean, of course, before then too. But for me, as somebody that's a fan of R&B and soul music, like the 70s, the 80s, and like that's like where you know, and that's why I grew up. I mean, even though Mariah Carey was way after then, but still, like I grew up studying, listening to people like Mariah Carey, Shaka Khan, um, you know, Anita Baker, Stevie Wonder. Like those are the best people to listen to, creatively. And the music was just the music. It was just like the love song was a love song. And not only that, but it was like sophistication, it was class, it was, I mean, and then even with people like Rick James, it just so happens that, the names are there, but who cares? Like the artist itself, the actual artists are immensely talented. Like people like Rick James, like, okay, he was provocative and like more sexual in his music, but the music was quality, you know? And it's like it's one thing to be like provocative in the songs, but it's like it don't matter if it ain't quality, you know? And it's like I'm not really inspired by a lot of the stuff that's going on in music now. And I'm not saying like it's not any talent out there. Like you gotta have some type of talent to even be in those spaces, I would think, maybe. But I don't know, I just feel like the quality in music, the frequency is just so uh, convoluted. And even the love songs ain't really love songs like it used to be. It's like when you gonna let me fuck, drop them draws. And I mean that's cool. I'm not trying to be like shady or nothing. I like some of them records. I like some of them, but you know, like they not I feel like the last good era of music like that, maybe like early 2000s, but I would say like the 90s. Like back in the day when the dudes in R&B groups and or R&B singers was begging in the rain, like that's when the quality R&B was. If they wasn't spinning and begging in the rain in the video, what are we talking about? You know? Like take it back. Take it back to the board and come again, you know. But I will say, you know, it's exciting to see Day 26 come back. I know a lot of the content that I've seen is like in regards to like, a lot of the stuff that went on with Diddy or whatever. But apparently they have a new album out and new music. And I saw them like singing and they sound really good to this day. And I love that for them. I grew up watching Making the Band. Like I was a fan of Danity Kane and Day 26 and, you know, listen to their music. So I mean I love to see that because, because that was back in the day when like you had to be good, like still, like even though like I feel like any current generation you can always complain about, but I still feel like there was good music in the 2000s, like that era, like with R&B at that time. With like, I think back like to like Fantasia, Tank. I mean, there's other people, you know. And I really don't need to be shouting nobody out, quite frankly, because who's shouting me out? But I'm just saying. But the music was quality. But you know, the early 2000s is when things start to get weird, to say the least. But anyway, I mean, I feel like that people know that about me. That when it comes to what I try to do in my music, I just really care about creating art that reflects talent. Like all the extra shit, eh, is so corny. But I get it, like, to a degree, like, with the music industry, it's a business. Like, you can have all the talent. Like, we know people that's talented that ain't in the industry is more talented than people in the industry. We all know that. We know people from around the way. Like, sing a lot of these bras under the water, you know? No pun intended. But if you know, you know. But I say that to say what I'm actually trying to talk about is, talent. But, you know, funny enough, I think to something that Jaguar Wright said, even though some people might feel a way about that. I'm like, don't feel a way about me, feel a way about, you know, what was said. I just be watching the content like anybody else. But anyway, that's beside the point. Something that she said was, I think with her, it was her and what's his name? Gene, the guy that was the bodyguard for Diddy. And he was like, can you sing this song? And so she's there singing the song and they're singing together. And she's like, this is what it's about, you know? Can it just be about the music? And it's unfortunate that, of course, like we're there watching the video to see what the tea is, like what's going on behind the scenes in this industry, like, the stuff that people don't want to talk about, the uncomfortable things to talk about, you know, the unfortunate things. But it's necessary to know, what goes on behind closed doors, especially for women going into the industry, and not just women, but anybody, and it's uncomfortable and it might piss people off. But like, that's, you know, it's better to know than to not to know. And whether, things are true or not, like, okay. But look, I think it's worth learning. And if people feel a way, about like what's said and all these things, and it's like, okay, well, how are y'all making this industry better and safer? And, let's talk about that. But what I really even care to bring up about that is like what she was saying is like, this is ultimately what we do it for. Like, like us just sitting here and singing and creating art and, creating moments that feel good because you loved this song and this song resonated with you and and it's like, can it just be that? Can the art just be that? Does it have to be all this extra bullshit? This hidden messages and secret, oh, let's recreate something that looks like this, set up with the background like this and this color. And then when we talk, we're gonna make this reference and then we're gonna pull from this energy over here because it's going to amplify the content. Just make the fucking content. Just make the art. Do y'all have to make all this convoluted art? Are y'all that desperate to push your products? Are y'all that desperate to push whatever you trying to sell? Just make the fucking art, and if it's good, it's good. But most of that shit is trash these days. Just make the art. And that's why I live stream these processes. That's why I was excited to share, like, oh, in the process of me working the art, like there's a moment where my mix is like it works really well with the Prince song. I was excited about that, and I still am. But and it's unfortunate that in making this art, it has to be like, oh, there might be a think piece because in reference to this moment, and then this person is trying to interfere with this, and then is she gonna do this? Is this gonna influence the art? Like, this shit is just so fucking corny. It's very corny. Especially when you just want to make the fucking art and make it dope and enjoy the art, you know? And yeah, this song is made as a declaration and a protest. And then when people try to like fuck with and interfere with that, be upset at yourself for being a reason why I would even need to make a song like this. But get the fuck out the way. Like, I have a right to express myself and express my experiences however the fuck I want to. And art is the most creative and peaceful way I can do this. And when even that is a problem, it's like pathetic. Just for people to like say and think like, oh, I was in control of that. Like, are you not in control in other areas of your life? And does this make you feel significant? Like, and I understand to some degree, like it could be entertaining with all the like the BS with the whole hidden messages, when done well. And I will say, like, I think Kendrick's really dope at that. Like he's really dope at the whole like Easter eggs, hidden messages, fucking Blues Clues, Nancy Drew, Sherlock Holmes type shit. Like I'm entertained by that because he's actually really good at it. But then, I feel like people just do it just to be like, all right, we gonna make these references and like, come up with our bullshit ass albums. And I'm just like, can the art just be art? And can y'all just create the art that y'all do over here? And then someone else can create the art that they do like somewhere over there. And I create the art that I do over here without like, you know, I mean, I know there's other things going on, things that I could address. I mean, I had already briefly said it, but that's it. That's all. That's all I'm getting into. Like, I'm not, because I know some of you people pay for the mention or for the attention, and it's just disappointing at this point. Like, it's like when people like try to like start a beef to, I'm assuming from an industry standpoint, where people start a beef to like put, build the hype about whatever is going on. Chances are they're probably selling something or there's some type of product that they're trying to push or whatever. And then in like say in personal circumstances, people, will start a fight with you just to like get your attention or, like pull your energy or whatever the case may be. And, at this point, like I peep that, but it's like I'm just trying to make art. I get people like trying to sell their products or whatever the case may be, but like, does that have to be the marketing tactic? You know? And my thing is like, I'll just say this simply. If my life were like the Truman Show, and for whatever reason, people happen to be able to see the things that I watch and consume as content on my platforms, I think that people should be upset at the platforms that push that content, unless that's who you're paying to market. Maybe get a return on investment that way, is all I'm saying. Because at this point, I just be wanting to make art and I just be watching content like anybody else. Especially on devices that I paid for with my own money on Narisse's internet because Narisse paid for the internet that she uses, not expecting that it would be hacked, you know. So maybe be upset at the hackers. I don't know. But I just be watching content like anybody else. But of course, I'm the steroids that people have to take to, um, which is disappointing, especially with like folks you look up to. But at the same time, like I said before, I've gotten to a day and age where like I can appreciate people's art and talent without it being like uh, that whole thing of like being disappointed by the people you look up to. It's not me. It's just unfortunate. And I say that lovingly and respectfully, even though I have no reason to like be loyal to anybody because everybody has disappointed me in one way or another. So it is what it is. And that's that on that. Because I know y'all want to, rattle conversation. But that's all I'm going to say. Because you know what? Like I said, I'm just trying to make art. And I get it, people got products to sell. People got projects to push. So do I, you know. And I'm really excited about breaking out the house because it's a dope record, and I'm proud of this record. And I worked really hard on this record. And this was a song that clearly means something to me, you know, because I mean, I literally say in the song, yearning for the life that you're wanting while facing their taunts and their judgments on you, trying to stay sane, fighting every fucking day, hiding your pain. And in the midst of all of that, just trying to make sure they stay out your fucking brain. You know, because mental health is important. Even though I feel like at this point, well, I haven't really seen much people talk about mental health as much these days, but I feel like we're in a day and age where everybody, the buzzwords around mental health is like gaslighting, depression, and anxiety. I have depression and anxiety, is what everybody says. And, um, and yet, we're still in a society where everybody is just so willing to be so mean and lack compassion for one another. It's like everybody got mental health issues, but nobody got mental health solutions. I'm speaking too much facts. My handlers are trying to silence me. For the content, you know, we got to create the drama to make it interesting. Because talking about making art isn't interesting enough. The whole system is pathetic and sad. I hope you all are proud of yourselves. Is this what you wanted? Are you not entertained? I wonder, is that the reference I was supposed to make today? You know what's interesting about Gladiator? The first one was the one with Russell Crowe. How, like, before his battles and matches, he will always kind of like grab some of the dirt and like rub it on his hands. You know what else is interesting? Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets. There's a scene where the kids are in the hallway and Snape approaches them and he kind of like Alan Rickman. He's like kind of like rubs his hands as he's like walking fiercely with his cape. blowing in the wind. And I'm like, oh, so I'm not the only one who does that because I like to play with powder. I know that sounds crazy if you're like talking about drugs. I don't do drugs, so that I don't make that correlation in my life. But um, as a spiritualist, there's a thing called cascadia, which are grounded eggshells, and you can use them as powders for protection. And plus, like growing up, we all have like weird things that we do. And my weird thing would be like wiping dust. And I don't know, I would just kind of like wipe dust and rub my fingers. And I do that with powders and I have ashes that I collect. And I just like to play with the powder. I don't know why I do it. It's a weird thing. But whatever, we all have our things. And, apparently, if my life were anything like the Truman Show, um, it would be interesting to think that if you can construct a person and to give them like interests and talents and, you know, behaviors and weird ticks or whatever, rubbing their fingers would be like one of them. I think that's a very odd and specific detail to add to the build a person type of situation. Random thought, you know, deviating from the conversation about music. But it's something that I noticed. And yeah, I do that. Yeah, shamelessly. But apparently that was a part of the script too. And you know what's interesting? Being given the gift of song, of music, and being in a position where your energy is used to amplify the careers of other musicians and creatives, but you struggle a little bit more to get that same recognition and respect for your talents. And you are talented and were made to be so talented. Down to producing beats on a beat machine. It's interesting because, they say that there's not much financial security in music. However, you're made to be an artist to make other people artists. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that an interesting way to give someone gifts and talents? Mm, I don't know. I thought. But anyway, it's a tangent. And I'm going to conclude this live stream right here because that's all you get from me. And, but yeah, I was really excited to um, create this mix between my song and this Prince song that I've liked for a long time, "Love to the Nines." You know, and I'm not speaking in code. There's not no hidden messages or any references to other individuals. No, I just like Prince is a phenomenal musician, and "Love to the Nines" is a great record. The art is amazing, and I thoroughly enjoy the art. and I would love to continue to build my skill set adjacent to greats. Long as they don't need to kick me down in order for them to be great. Because I don't think that's necessary, nor is it advantageous for anyone. And it won't be, because there's room for us all to win. And I like to think if I can't win, nobody can't win. So I guess we should start making some room for us all to win, for no one to win. I thought. Anyway, much love to y'all. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. Um, you know, and I'm going to conclude this here. Many blessings to you all. Have a good night. May you all be blessed, protected, and abundant. And I will see y'all later. Much love. Take care. Stream the music. Check out the songs on SoundCloud and follow me on TikTok. And I have a collection coming out, clothing, so be on the lookout for that.